Cure for money. Take 3. How about that for being cinematic? Hello everyone, I'm Adam Abraham, and I just got a website or a domain name. I haven't put the website up yet. I just got the domain name called cureformoney.com. And why would I get cureformoney.com? Well, it's because after a lot of thought, when you consider the things that we as a society, we as people, I'm talking humanity, I'm talking throughout history, at least for the last couple thousand years, in terms of what has been done because of money or something like that, is really, really clear that we have a problem that we perhaps haven't acknowledged. Our actions around money are, frankly, the actions of addicts in the sense of what we have become accustomed to doing for money. It's not necessarily in the name of it, but certainly for the exchange of it. Typically either to get it, or to take it, or to influence behavior by giving it certain types of behavior. But when you look at the consequences or effects of that behavior, the behavior itself, common sense would have said, that's not a good thing. But the ones who encourage the behavior have reasons of their own. And again, money has been used either as a carrot or deprivation tool. One or the other. Some people say that money is, it's just energy. Nothing wrong with that. And I basically say that it's saying that money is just energy. Everything is energy. There's nothing that isn't. So being energy in and of itself doesn't make it, let us say, generic in any kind of way. Money has value associated with a consciousness of a person, of people. And as a conveyance of value, it has no value unto itself. People give money value, but more so, they give their talents, they give their gifts, they give their creations value. Money is simply a convenient way to exchange that we've agreed upon, become accustomed to exchanging for the talents, the services, the knowledge, the information, whatever it is, from people to people. And instead of nurturing the real value that we have with each other, and that is our relationships, our interactions, we have focused on the money or the objects that we can create in exchange for it. And then an entire subplot has arisen in humanity around the acquisition or the conquest associated with money and its various forms that it might have taken, whether it be gold and doubloons or shiny trinkets in some particular cultures, or whether it's been greenbacks, etc., in these modern times. But ultimately, the same thing exists, is that their money unto itself actually is not real. And yet, because we perceive it to have the value, we have tended to even look past the real value holders, the real value examples. And what are that? It's you and me. Without you and without me, one, there's no money. Certainly there's no value. But if we are looking past each other to the money itself, then we're missing the point. And money then becomes part of our malaise. Because in that whole subject about energy, energy is everywhere, energy is everything in everything. Nothing exists that is not energetic. But in the purpose that money has been tasked to serve in our society, it ought to be, I'm saying it in that way because it's not, but it ought to be neutral. It should be impartial. Money as we presently dance with it is anything but impartial. It plays favorites, and it has been a major tool of influence by people who have come to a place of being, I'll say, above money. They have so much of it, they can do, or they do all kinds of things to amuse themselves. And they are interacting with people who have perhaps spent much of their lives without enough of it. And then you get into a perpetual state of mind of never having enough. Always wanting more. Always perceiving a need for more. And that emptiness, that true emptiness, is actually not filled even by the success in achieving or acquiring money. Yes, you can make what looks like an amazing life, but it's amazingly empty in ways that you wouldn't imagine, because it's empty in ways that money can't buy. So, for those reasons and many more, we need a cure. It's not that money is bad. It's not that even having it is bad. But when you place your value when you place the value or your value of yourself on the money that you have or do not have, then you got a problem. And the problem is that since so many people do that, no one's noticing it, okay? Albert Einstein is quoted to have said something to the effect, I'll find the quote and put it on the screen to give you a break from looking at me, that you can't solve a problem from the thinking that caused the problem in the first place. And so what I'm saying right here is that people are typically, even in this day, not of the thinking that either money is a problem that they need curing of or from, or that there is a way to do that. There is a way to gain. We're so used to exchanging work, activity, like hamster type activity where you're doing this in exchange for money, entertainment stuff. We're used to lying and cheating each other in exchange for it. We're used to reading stuff on teleprompter screens and inviting people to do this or that or the other that they should not really do. But what? We got some bucks for it. And every time they run that, we get more bucks. Yet, the reality of what's being suggested is a huge, huge detriment. So clearly, people have not seen that this is a problem that they need some respite, some relief from. And the other part of it is Okay, there are people who do have a little bit of it, and they've gotten into this place where they'll get into stocks, they'll trade money, they're investors, they've got stuff. And so now one group of people who want to get money and be trusted with the money, they'll pander to and cater to another group who have a bunch of it. But that group, if this is the whole, okay, of our population, just that group is maybe like around here someplace, you know? I mean, it's a small group, but it keeps those folks busy and happy and in their lifestyle, whatever it is. The rest of the population, there are populations that don't have, well, they don't have much at all. They've got talents, they have skills, they have knowledge. They have just as much right from an energetic standpoint, and even from a monetary standpoint. There's value in what they do. They can literally help people extend and improve the quality of their lives with that knowledge or with those services, whether they're products or whatever they are. It may be art. So what's prompted all of this? So one thing here is that we have this problem called money and addiction to it, so to speak. Money itself, again, is neither here nor there. But our ways of interacting with it, and that means the money that we allow to come to us, that we hold, the money that we allow to appease others, what we get for that appeasement or not. You know, in some regards, people are doing things automatically by rote. They're paying money out to this and that. They're not getting services. They're not getting good service. We have government, I have to say, gosh, I've already mentioned it. We have governments, or what's called governments, but governments are simply people. They are groups of people that are entrusted to represent the interests of their constituents. We've got people right now in certain levels of quote-unquote government who've decided they only listen to some of the constituents, and the rest of them be damned. And yet, people sit back and look at it and see this, and then they just sit back and debate and they're just ooh and ah and amazed over it, and not taking exception to that. The people these are people, not government. The people that sit in those positions, they do so with a sense that they have some kind of mandate, they have some kind of entitlement. They have in front of our faces created what appears to be their class, and then everyone else. And they don't have a sense that they can be removed from those positions of trust. Those are positions of trust. And the trust has been breached. Much of it having to do with the use of money, the judicious use of it, and the spreading of it. Something that in and of itself has no reality to it. And people have set aside that which does have reality. That's your conscience. That's their conscience. That's their sense of what represents I'd say a confirmation of faith, the point of the trust, the trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is earned, a sense of worth. These people are not, they're worth less. They're not worth your trust. They're not even worth the perks that they've given themselves. And yet we have grown accustomed to simply watching them make more and more victims that take away more and more of your rights. Some people call them lawmakers. I call them flaw makers because they are flawing. They are creating misguided. They're using flawed logic. They're simply creating problems and then directing people's attention someplace else, as any charlatan would do. Misdirection, distraction. It's not just the government people either. We have a medical system that's doing the same thing. And again, build the trust in the profession and the professional. Keep the client, patient, confounded. Keep them thinking that they have no ability to understand and comprehend the actions that and the consequences that the practitioner is doing on their behalf. The practitioner is supposed to know more about the person than the person is able to know about themselves. And people go to them because they've been convinced that that's the case. Really big mistake. But we all do it. I've done it. Until I started learning for myself how this vessel works. Gosh, don't even get talking about military, talk about wars and all these other things. We think that there's something noble. We think it's about such things like some type of ism we're trying to keep tabs on, or we're supposed to protect from this way of life and way of living. And we're hearing this from people that own the organs of communication, the networks. They gather together and they tell and formulate a story, and they tell that single story so that everyone that listens to them and them alone sees it in that context, sees the problem or the situation in that context, even while in actuality something else is happening. Other reasons are behind it. And even as it relates to wars, generally speaking, as it has at least in our history, there was a group of people that was behind funding both sides. Why? For whether it's money, maybe it's for simply amusement. It certainly wasn't for any kind of respect for life. Just like what's happening today has no real respect for life. And see, here's the problem with that. It turns out that we the living, are always living. We have this concept in our society, or our culture, called death. And some what are perceived to be advanced or civilized cultures are in some level of question about what happens after these bodies, we're done with these bodies, these vessels. And I don't want to minimize the importance of these vessels. These vessels are amazing. They're amazing in what they do. They are amazing in how they work. They are totally amazing in the abuse that we unknowingly heap on them needlessly. If we were the intelligent beings that we like to think we are, or at least I might say the ones who weave these tales perhaps like to think they are, in contrast to the rest of us. But if we were behaving intelligently, if we were behaving truthfully, if we were behaving lovingly toward each other, if we were seeing ourselves as equals to each other, with no need to look up to anyone or down to anyone, we would be in a different world, because we will have created a different world, a different quality of life experience, which is possible for the choice, for the desire of it, for the imagining of it, and for the living of it, even in this here and this now. So this story about money and this use of money has had its consequences that actually are not evident to people while they're doing the experience, unless they've cared enough to care for something better, to want a better life, a better existence, not only for themselves in this here and in this now, but in here's and now's to come. As an immortal being, as a consciousness that passes lifetime to lifetime, bodies come and go, surroundings come and go, but the consciousness, the being, that which we are, continues. That consciousness expands under certain circumstances. It remains in stasis under others. And while money may be a tool for a few people to have some jollies at the expense of many, it's also providing some stasis for the jolly makers that they're not aware of. I'll just put it that way. There's no getting around it. But in the meantime, there is something that we can do to change our particular relationship with money. Again, I'm not making money bad. It's not the villain. People with, let's say, weak spiritual constitutions do things that they regret. And that's between them and them. You know, when you really get down to it. But there are things that you can do, I can do. And first of all, it needs to be doing something that we love. But I got to thinking about all this not too long ago when I came across something that is, in fact, very, very different. And it allows you to exercise those things it gives you reason to exercise those things that actually do matter. What matters? Courage matters. Forgiveness matters. Truth matters. Relationships matter. Connection matters. Those things are important. And in many situations, we have created or allowed those points of relationship, those those matters of relationship to fester, to wane, to come into disarray, oftentimes due to our relationship with money. Our handling of it, our mishandling of it, our not having enough of it, our conflicts associated with it, etc., etc. The things that we would need to do in order to get it, which are totally against our own constitutions, our spiritual constitutions. All of these activities and these conflicts have been put into play due to the management, the manipulation of money in such a way to have an authority over money, an authority over the checkbook, an authority over whatever it is that you have to pander to, and then you have to find out from them what do they require of you in order to exchange in a certain amount of this stuff called money with you. And people have been so accustomed to doing those things, and I'm talking again, generations after generations, that it's just been part of the grind. So in the last few years, this thing has come up, and they call it, first it was the internet. That's been for 20, 30 years now, since the late 1990s. And then in the last 10, 12 years, these things called cryptocurrencies start showing up. Bitcoin being the beginning of that. And it was a way to create a new way of exchanging value that would be borderless, permissionless, not requiring some central authority. It was a way to create peer-to-peer relationships with each other, in the sense that you can interact with people, and quite frankly, you could interact with them anywhere around the world. And if they were doing something that you felt some support, some kindredness to, some resonance with, you could interact with them. You could send them some value, so to speak. You could exchange goods. And you could compensate them directly. If they had an email address and something called a wallet, and you had sufficient amount of these cryptocurrencies, because they had become in such widespread enough use that they could convert those cryptos into a currency or a conveyance that they could use wherever they were. And in the last 10 years, but the last several years, that entire area has increased tremendously. It has matured. And even a few years ago, where the big companies, the major banks, and the investment groups and everything else were calling the cryptocurrencies a scam, calling a Bitcoin in particular one, time and time again, all your experts were saying to stay away from it. And then they eventually started changing their tunes. One of them, I recall, even saw some report or article basically saying, well, I couldn't say it then, a few years ago. Now he's a big advocate of it, but he couldn't say it then. Now, people who were at least in the crypto space and already begun delving into it knew he was lying. And see, this is another thing about people lying to you right in front of your face. Well, they can't say this because where are their allegiances? Their main allegiances are to themselves. Again, they got that money virus thing going. They are influenced and influenceable by and to the extent that they are compliant with the people who pass the money out. But that basically means that you get grossly misinformed unless you spend some time and some effort informing yourself. and not just informing yourself, going and getting out into the new space yourself and getting acquainted with it. And so these things have been happening over the past few years, and things have matured enough in the crypto space so something amazing has come. Something amazing exists. Now, there are a lot of things in the crypto space that are around getting cryptos and building, but they all tend to be in that investment area. And so, and anytime you talk about people's money or how they treat money, I should say anytime, because, you know, if I were sitting here doing a commercial for a toaster oven, you would be spending some money in order to buy it, and it wouldn't be considered investment advice, but it might as well. So what I'm going to tell you about now, you know, it's not investment advice either, and it doesn't really involve using much money. However, what's wonderful about it is that if you take this situation up, if you do the things that it asks you to do, you will put a little bit of money in. But if you do these activities, which don't involve money at all in that sense, you will be rewarded with a whole bunch of money. And what this situation is called CoopCrowd. CoopCrowd is referred to as a crowdfunding application or an environment, but it is not like any other application, any other crowdfunding thing. It has a membership, and you are invited to join by a CoopCrowd member. When you join, you will be asked to pay an amount of money to join, a membership fee, and it's a monthly subscription. You will start with a 3-month subscription to begin. $25 a month plus 3 and plus something else. There's another option. So $28, that's $84 if you go 3 months. And then you got one other thing, and that's it's a few $100, but it does something that makes it worth doing too. So what it boils down to is, for about $400 some odd dollars, roughly, you get in. You put that amount up. I know all kind of investment things that involve much more than that. And once people see something that works and works well, they'll put a lot more into something like that. CoopCrowd, that's it in terms of what you would put in if you do these other things. So you put your $400 in. The person that invites you, you put your $400 in. You will get 3 tokens. These are packets of information. That's all they are. You don't touch them. Packets of information, but 3 tokens. And you'll get a 4th token, but it's a different one. The 3 tokens are going to be used for the tasks that you will be performing. The 4th token is you put yourself into a second pool from which you will receive funds. When you put your 84, your first part in to get those 3 tokens, you are putting yourself into a pool from which you will receive funds as well. And so you put your funds up. The person that invited you will take one of their 3 tokens that they originally got and give to you. That'll give you 4 tokens, but that makes you have 3 tokens that you can give to do the next task. The next task is you invite 3 people that you know, that you care for, or that care for you, that are interested in this, that you've talked to, and then you will give one of your tokens to them after they do the same thing that you did. And needless to say, you can do this with more than 3. But the profound things that occur with CoopCrowd happen when you have passed out your 3 tokens, and the 3 people that received your tokens because they bought their set, when they pass out their 3 to someone that they've invited, it opens up some doors of receipt for you that go down 10 levels deep from where you are. It covers up to 88,572 people. And the system is such that it triggers payments. You can call them donations, but it's a wave of regard that is sent back to each member who does those things. And because each member is actually bringing the liquidity into the platform, the funds are there. And the funds will be there because the member is bringing their liquidity in, and the inviting member is giving their token. That's what they did. And the system is paying out, so to speak, from that liquidity. And the money deficit that the member was operating under rises and rises. It diminishes and diminishes. It diminishes. Your cup gets full, so to speak, and then it runneth over. It keeps coming. Now, where you didn't have enough, now you've got plenty. You've got so much that even with the donations, see, when you put your funds into the CoopCrowd system, you were donating to 10 other members and their projects, the things that are dear to them, which include just living life in sufficiency. Before you can live abundantly, you got to live in sufficiency. Sufficiency of money. Sufficiency of time. Sufficiency of choice. The ability to make a choice to do something simply because you want to, simply because this path is better than that path, simply because it doesn't matter if someone gets angry and decides they're going to fire you, or they're going to do this or do that, or they're going to withhold that carrot that they've been doing all this time, that they've been dangling, that you've been allowing. If those types of dynamics have been familiar to you and you've had enough of it, you see why this is amazing. Do you know someone that's in that position that is ready to get out of it, that is ready to change it, that is ready to get their conscience back, that is ready to sleep soundly at night because they can live with themselves, that's ready to rest, or able to hire someone else to do things that they didn't have the resources to do for themselves before? Able to handle the ups and downs in the price of gas and real estate, and able to not be so affected by it and so stressed out? Do you know anyone that's in that position? CoopCrowd is indifferent to all of those things. It doesn't care about the price of Bitcoin or any other fact. It doesn't care about the ups and downs of the crypto or of the dollar. And yet, it is using the crypto space. You will take some dollars, that 400 some odd dollars that I'm mentioning, you will take and you will convert into a crypto. You can use Bitcoin, you can use Ethereum, but it'll be presented as far as the value in USDT, as in dollars, so it's the easiest to translate. And you can exchange some dollars into USDT, put it in the system, then your inviter will pass their token to you. That locks you in. Now you get started. And the magic is amazing. After you've invited your 3 and they have become active, and then they have invited their 3 who have become active. And now, of course, what are you passing on? You're passing on enthusiasm. You're passing on the behavior of doing this, because it will continue to pay for each one of those members in the same way that it pays for you. This is not something where you're going to get and the other's going to stop. And you hear some people say, and I've heard some people have told me, oh, this sounds like, a Ponzi scheme. Well, our monetary system has been so long-standing as a Ponzi scheme, we don't even realize it. But the value of that coin goes down and down and down. The value of money gone down, but they call it as inflation. The inflation rate, I just saw something yesterday. Inflation rate in the United States, 8%, but the stress rate was higher than that, much higher than that. You've got cars and trucks that are now 6 figures for a car or a truck that used to be, $20,000 or $30,000. And of course, I remember here gas now, places are $6 to $7 a gallon or $6 or whatever they are today. At the time I'm doing this, I remember when gas was less than $1 a gallon. And the truth of the matter is, our supplies of fuels have not changed dramatically. So, not to mention what it costs in raw materials and stuff to make those electric cars, savings aren't there either. But that's neither here nor there. My point is this: the solution to, the cure for, there's lactose intolerance as far as milk is concerned. Maybe for money, there's the cure for lack tolerance. The cure for lack tolerance. We've developed a lack tolerance, a tolerance for lack. And the cure is sufficiency. And CoopCrowd pays in money. It's in crypto, but the crypto can be withdrawn. It is withdrawn in Ethereum, and it can be used and turned back into funds. But the cure for lack tolerance is building relationships, putting your thoughts, your attention back where it belonged in the first place, caring about each other. Even as I've talked to some people who have listened to me and elected to say, well, they didn't have the time, etc. And it's so fascinating. Everyone has the time to talk to someone in a thoughtful, intelligent manner, without trying to sell them on anything, but simply trying to reason with them, help them through their excuses that they give themselves for not living up to their own idea of what their life should be like. Thinking that their stresses and their troubles are too much, they have to get to another place before they could do this, when if they do this, they will be in another place. To be patient even while someone is going through that process. But you know something? When they make it through, when you make it through, this is how you change your life. You change your thinking. And instead of looking at money as something that you want, look at it as something that wants you. you don't care about. Stop caring about money. There is a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a... You know what I'm talking about. It's time to not give up about money. With CoopCrowd, you can do that because you do give about relationships. You want to talk to people because you know what this system can do. Because it's worldwide. It doesn't matter where they are. You know what it can do for them if they are willing to do this for themselves. CoopCrowd is involving all of the being to interact with others to help them, one, get out of their own malaise and supplement them and reward them with something that don't really matter outside of this society. Outside of this life, you don't take it with you. You don't take your cars, you don't take the house, it don't go with you. And people that you may value this stuff, but others may not. What you do value are relationships with each other and relationships with yourself. And the relationships that you strengthen by helping people do something that they did not think was possible. When a person can live in lack tolerance for so long, and all of a sudden, by courageously talking to someone that they had estranged, for example, or just talking to a stranger, having a conversation, and finding someone who is interested in this and willing to join. Boy, oh boy, the good feelings just grow and grow and grow. That builds self-confidence. It also builds healing. You may or may not know this, but when you are in stress, it also registers as a point of imbalance, cranial imbalance, our brain. People talk about some things that are left brain activity and right brain activity. And again, in our social and cultural blindness, we just make it a point of discussion, just like I did a video a little while ago talking about glass half empty, glass half full. That becomes a subject of conversation and debate and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's a glass at half capacity. If you were looking at that glass as energy, and everything is energy, then the aqueous energy that's represented by the water in that glass, there's a capacity for more. It's half capacity. You want to be at full capacity. With money, you want to be at full capacity. You want your cups full. You want your accounts full. And yet you still want to be able to help someone when you can. Or you want to be able to help yourself. I have things I want to do in this life. There are things I want to see done in this life. There are some major improvements that we can make in our society. I'm talking about that would help our communities, our towns, our homes, our environment. A lot of it is not known, but a lot of it is. But the people who are holding the money, the folks who have the ideas, they're running to these investor types and inquiring to them or presenting to them and giving them all these reasons. And the investor types are sitting there, well, tell me more about this. Well, see, I got this hoop over here. I want you to jump over that. Can you do a backflip over here? That's what's going on. Well, okay, you do all those things and it's looking real good, but I think I want to get some real good control over that because I want to know when I'm going to get my money back. Okay, don't give a rat's butt about the change. They don't get any joy about the improvement that they're going to make, say, to the environment, about how they're going to make this world better. So when they find out that they are actually an immortal being, but since they haven't done anything to change their consciousness, the world is simply going to be a continuation of the crap that's already been done that they didn't change and do anything about. So they'll deal with that. They'll have to face that and deal with the consequences of that until such time that people decide to wake up, get over their lack tolerance, and start filling themselves, their minds, their hearts with love, with care, start treasuring truth, and treasuring the vehicle that nature has given us to be and express and live joyfully, abundantly, in a healthy manner. Does that describe your life now? Or does it describe the life you want to live? If you want to live, if it describes the life you want to live, you can begin. You can do it now. You can do it today. But CoopCrowd is a way that you can actually begin that process, because it is on a plane above the conventional way of thinking. It's a step removed from this conventional way of looking at money as the be-all and the end-all. Because in truth, money is nothing. And yet it's everything until you know it's nothing. You are nothing until you know you're everything. It's all on you. But if this all makes sense and you like the idea, I invite you to join CoopCrowd. My invitation link will be below. And if another member has told you about this video and this little talk, please contact them, get back with them, and join us. This is the difference that you can make for yourself and we can make for the whole. Thanks a lot. Peace. Be well. I love you all. There you go.